And that's one of the great things about Washington. Like, yes, we're losing a lot of our seasons, but there's so many other things out there that we can do. And if you want to fish every single day of the year, there's something you can fish for in the state. Who doesn't like learning something new? It's not a bad thing. And it will help you a lot of times in that fishery that you really like and you're looking forward to all year.
Welcome to the Fishing for a Reason podcast. It's great to have you guys here again, as always. And this week, we have a special guest that I am thrilled to introduce you guys to because she is a wealth of knowledge of all fishing, fisheries. And so, Brianna Bruce is the owner of Livin Life Adventures. Google it, go to livinlifeadventures.com. She's a year round guide service based right here in Washington State. She's one of those rare people that's been running a boat since before she could reach the controls. And I've actually gone out fishing sturgeon with her. And so 100% believe it. It was such an awesome experience getting out on the water with Bree and watching her work her magic. We caught a huge sturgeon, like the kind you have to get out of the boat to wrap your arms around to get that photo before you release it. It was huge. It was massive. It was epic. And she's one of those people that if you're looking to learn any sort of fishery, she's really great and approachable for beginners. She's built a reputation not only as a skilled angler, but a very patient teacher with kind of a you can do this energy. And so we're going to dive into one specific fishery. I said, "Hey, Bree, any chance you teach squid fishing?" And she says, "Yes." I'm like, there is nobody on the planet that fishes kokanee, Baker Lake sockeye, lingcod, halibut. She does all of the species and she does them expertly well. So I'm thrilled to have her on. If you can't tell by my intense energy right now, but we're going to dive right into a little bit of Bree's backstory before we transition to a training seminar with our inner circle members. And if you are curious about getting access to that, just go to anglersunlimited.co/gold and jump on that wait list. It's not open right now, but when doors open, you'll be the first to be notified. So with that, Bree, can you give us a little bit of backstory of how the heck you got started in this world of fishing?
Yeah, absolutely. So it starts like way back. My mom fished with my dad when she was pregnant with me. And then when I was 6 weeks old, they had me out on the ocean salmon fishing.
Oh my
And from
God.
that point on, it's just been like fishing, hunting, fishing. So like all of our family trips were fishing. All I thought about was fishing. I grew up wanting to be a marine biologist. So like we had a 32-foot Carver aft cabin that we would like cruise all over Puget Sound, and we'd take it up the inside passage of Vancouver Island every summer. And my parents like never super into orcas and wanted to be a marine biologist that studied those. And as you grow and as life goes on, you start to like realize that maybe your childhood dreams weren't so much like a sustainable job or really like fit in with what you want to do, that kind of thing. And my parents were always in the construction industry. So I wanted to kind of, as I was going through high school and deciding what I wanted to do as an adult, I wanted to kind of stay in the family business, but maybe make a little bit more money. So
Mhm.
I was always interested in geotechnical engineering also. So I went to WSU after high school and wanted to be a geotechnical engineer. Well, when I got there, I really didn't have the like my high school kind of failed me in the math department and I wasn't ready for like college level math, which is really important for an engineer. And I always did really good in math, so it kind of really took the wind out of my sails when I got there. And being a like, straight A student and never having an issue figuring it out and understanding it, and then all of a sudden being like feeling completely lost 300 miles from home, like it definitely took the wind out of my sails. But the Snake River was not that far away. So I spent a lot of time going down there and fishing bass and steelhead from the shore. And I always like I would make my classes later in the day when I was picking classes so that I could go fish in the morning and make it to class. Somehow I still never managed to make it to class. So I kind of took it as a sign. Maybe I should like change and do something in the fishing industry or biology, something like that. So I changed my major to animal sciences and still never made it to most of my classes. So, about that time, my aunt was diagnosed with colon cancer,
Mm,
and by the time they found it, it had spread to her pancreas and her liver. So they gave her 3 months to live. She did make it a year and a half, but one of her big wishes was she wanted to do one last big family trip so we could kind of like make last memories and, try to make some happy ones. So she knew my dad had always wanted to go to Alaska and being a, fisherman his whole life and that being like his big main hobby. He'd always wanted to go to Alaska, but he'd never take himself. He's not a traveler. He really has no interest in traveling. Like, what is there that we can't catch in Washington? Really nothing. Like maybe more of or bigger, but we're like had always been very successful here in Washington. So she decided that's where she wanted to go for her last big family trip. And we went to the Kenai Peninsula. We stayed in Soldotna and we stayed in a nice lodge so she was comfortable and did like kind of the whirlwind Alaska tour. We did the Kenai River, the Kasilof. We fished halibut out of Homer. We fished like literally everything that swims out of Seward in the saltwater. And then we did a fly-in trip for sockeye. And it was my
mm,
first time
epic.
around guides. Like I'd never really been anywhere near them. We always had our own boats and we always like we'd fish off the bank or we'd go out in the boat. So we my first time my cousin actually knew some. She had gone to high school with a couple of the guides that, ended up there. So we were there for 4th of July and we went to a 4th of July party with all of the Kenai guides. So got to kind of hang out with them and talk to them and really opened my eyes to the fact that oh, here's this like career sitting here where you get to take people fishing and that's your job. And like I'd always known it in the back of my mind, but had never really thought of it for myself
Mhm.
until we were up there and getting on the boat with a guide and being able to like we didn't need to launch the boat. We didn't need to tie the gear. We just got to get in the boat and fish and have a good time and make these memories that were some of our last memories with Auntie Anna meant the world to me. It was so much more than just going fishing and catching fish. So that was like the big light bulb moment of I want to do this for other people. Like
Mm,
I want to take people out. I want to make memories. I want to show them the outdoors. I want to show them how amazing fishing is and how much it can do for you, for your heart and your soul and the good of people. So I came home with a fire under me and got my guide license.
mm. Wow.
Yeah.
So when you got your guide license, where are you at now? What are you actually guiding? Tell us the gamut of fisheries that people can go and make memories with you
I
doing.
tell people I fish for pretty much everything, but well, I guide for pretty much everything but tuna. I mean, my main staples are salmon and steelhead. I do a lot of kokanee, and then I do like some walleye and bass and sunfish, like bluegill and crappie and stuff. I fish for perch. I do lingcod, a little bit of halibut. I'm getting more into halibut now that I've got my bigger boat. I, at this point, have three guide boats. They're all sleds. They're all open sleds, but they've just gotten bigger. I guided for 10 years out of my first boat, which is an 18.5 foot Willie Predator. And then the last 4 or 5 years, I've had my 23-foot North River Scout. And then this last winter, I got my 26-foot Willie Raptor. So with that 26-foot boat, it's opened up a lot more options. So I'm doing a lot more lingcod. I can go out and do halibut on a lot more days than I could previously and, be safer about it. Yeah, like literally pretty much I don't really have the boat for tuna fishing, but I do pretty much everything else and I really enjoy tuna fishing. Like that's the one trip that, every year or two I usually pay for my seat and go on a tuna charter.
And where are you? What's your primary location? Do you have one? Because I know you're kind of all
You'll
over the place.
travel. Yeah.
I travel.
What
If
if
you
I
want to be a
said
full-time guide in
move
the state,
this
you have
place?
to travel. I am based out of Snohomish County. So
Okay.
like my home river is the Snohomish and Skykomish, but as we saw this year, we don't have a whole lot of options all the time. That gets cut short a lot of times. So Puget Sound, like out of Everett and Shilshole, The Snohomish, Skykomish, and the Skagit River are kind of my home bases, Lake Stevens and Lake Samish up north. And then I travel. I spend like a month at least at Baker Lake every summer. I'll go over to Brewster and do sockeye over there. I'll
Cool.
go the Columbia River pretty much like from Buoy 10 all the way to Brewster and everywhere in between. I'll usually, I'll take some little trips here and there. Potholes, Banks Lake, Lake Chelan is a big one that I do. I just
Mm.
kind of where there's fish and where people want to go fishing, I pretty much go.
How do you manage the schedule? That's
Yeah.
what I've been.
He's got a
I'm
charter too, and I'm like, that
How do
sounds
you?
so hard.
Yeah.
I'm honestly not as good at it as I should be. I set my big trips. Like I know Baker Lake, I'm going to be there from the middle of September, usually to the middle of August. Lingcod, I do at least the first 3 weeks of May. So I set my big trips that I know
Yeah.
I'm going to like be doing for an extended period of time, and then I fill in the space with the other stuff here and there. Like I'll go to Lake Chelan for 2 weeks, maybe the end of May, beginning of June, when I'm kind of petering off lingcod. If I can do something at home, I love to sleep in my own bed at night. So like fall rolls around and Coho is great being able to fish the Snohomish that, the boat launch is a half hour from my house. So I try to put priority on that, but I try to just book the peak of seasons. I don't really want to take people's money for a boat ride. I mean, if they want to learn, I'm the first one to tell people like if you actually want to learn, going outside of peak is going to be better for you because I'm going to work harder to catch fish because it's going to be harder fishing. So you're going to see, you're going to see it for longer. You're going to see more techniques. You're going to probably see more spots. Where if you go at the very peak of the season when the fishing's really good, like we might go fish
It's
for
easy.
an hour and we're going to be done because we have our limits and we don't have to go very far or try,
Yeah.
a bunch of different techniques. So I will, like, I kind of play it that way and I try to listen to what people want out of their day. Getting into guiding, that's always been kind of my philosophy is like the number of fish I have put in the boat at the end of the season does not dictate how good of a guide I am. It's the memories and enjoyment people have had along the way. So it's your day. You're hiring me in my boat to go fish. If, the fishing's slow and you're bored and like, well, let's go for a boat ride or let's try something different. If it's feasible or viable, I'm not going to go just like, oh, you want to try back trolling? Well, there's not really water here. So I try to keep it within the confines of stuff that will actually be successful and showing you things that will be successful while trying to catch fish. But it's your day. If you want to go for a boat ride or you want to pull over on the beach and let the kids and the dogs out to play on the beach in the sand and have a good time, that's up to you guys. So I try to play with what people tell me they want out of their day and give them the best recommendation for what is going to fulfill that want the best.
I love that philosophy.
Yeah.
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 Awesome.
Yep. It's real. That's what it's all about. It's about making those memories and those lifetime things that people are never going to ever forget. I'm sure
Right.
you have repeat customers. So if somebody wants to book you and squeeze their way into your busy schedule, what is the best way that they can find you?
The best way to find me is email gofish at Livin Life Adventures, that's living without the G.com, or Facebook. Send me a message on Facebook. I am horrible at answering my phone. Half the time it's that I'm busy, half the time it's that I'm out of like cell phone reception. I'm really bad at answering the phone and giving people calls back. I need to work on that. Not a great business plan, but way easier to get a hold of me in some form of like text,
Beautiful.
email. You can text me, you can send me a message on Facebook.
And we'll make sure to link everything in the show notes for you guys. So if you want to get on that schedule, make sure you go down there and grab it as soon as you can. But every guide that we know has that one early trip, like very beginning of your experience where something maybe didn't go perfectly. And we always think those moments teach the most valuable and powerful lessons for anglers, whether you're fishing off your own boat or whether you're guiding. And I'd love to know, do you have any stories like that that stand out as memorable for you?
I have, there's one that's a, very simple lesson. that very early on, and it's only happened to me. It happened to me twice, and I've now really learned my lesson. We were actually fishing kokanee on a really small local lake, and as we were trolling along, the trolling motor kind of petered out. And a boat is a boat. Mechanical issues happen, and you have to learn to kind of overcome them. And I was going to just kind of switch up tactics so we could continue to fish. And when I tried to start the main motor, it also petered out.
Oh no.
Come to the realization that I am out of gas,
Oh
which
no.
I had gotten gas the night before. So apparently, someone had siphoned my fuel
Oh,
Mm.
overnight.
terrible.
So we actually managed to paddle over, and there was a little store just up the hill from where we were. So we managed to paddle over, and one of my clients actually got out instead of I was going to leave them with the boat, and I was going to go for the hike to go get gas. And one of my clients actually went, and he hiked up and got a gas can and some gas. The owner of the store let him borrow a gas can and came down. But after that happened to me twice,
Oh my God.
I now get fuel in the morning on the way.
Yeah.
That's
Uh,
Always put
terrible.
at least a little bit in. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. And it's like it's happened twice in 14 years, but
oh, jeez.
it does happen. So
It's
just
a
one of
memory
those
that makes
things
a
of,
difference.
I know it's always
yeah,
one of those things.
anything that you can do to like lessen that, right? Like
Yeah.
I leave in the morning a little extra early so I can stop at the gas station, which also gives me time to like get an energy drink and a breakfast sandwich and put some gas in the boat so I always have gas. And that's just it was like mortifying for me to like realize that I was out of gas. And then even more mortifying when my client offered to go walk up. Like, I can do it. And he goes, "Oh, no, it's fine." And he's like jumping off the boat and going before I could stop him. And yeah, it was super embarrassing. Like, now I look back and laugh about it, but it was, yeah, super embarrassing.
Okay, you talked about all the stuff that you fish for. If you could only do one,
Yeah.
if you could only do one fish season for the year, what would it be and why?
Guiding one season would probably be Coho.
Oh yeah.
Um, They are my favorite salmon, like the whole thing. I like the places that I fish for them. I like fishing for them. I like fighting them. I like looking at them. I like eating them. Like I love coho. And there's so many ways to go about fishing for them. Like you can't really get bored fishing for coho. You can, fish Dick Nights, and then when you get bored of that, you can go cast or troll plugs, or you can fish eggs under a float, or you can twitch jigs, or you can throw spinners, or I mean, like endless. You can troll 360s and super baits, or I just really love coho fishing. If I were to quit guiding, or if it was a non-guiding question and it was just fishing in general, I would go crappie fishing.
Mm.
Okay.
They're just fun. You can catch 25, 50, 100 in a day. And there are a lot of like little subtleties to it. And like using really ultralight gear
Yeah.
is just, it makes it so much fun. And I just like it. I don't know. And they're
So if
tasty.
someone
Well,
wants to try crappie fishing, what's the quick bare bones basics to try and get started?
My favorite is just like an ultralight rod, real light line, like 6 pound fluorocarbon. I really like very specifically, I do really good on trout magnets, which is just this little tiny jig. And it's like, it looks like a little worm with a split tail, and it has a head that's shaped like a shad dart, but like micro. And I have caught so many fish on those, like all kinds of fish. I've caught crappie, I've caught like every warm water, like small sunfish and stuff, and I've caught like 6 pound bass on them.
mm,
Like everything, I've caught 32-inch trout on them. Like everything will eat one of those trout magnets. So I always keep a lot of them, like you can get them at Walmart or like everywhere carries them. And you can get a little, like they come in a tackle box with a bunch of little jig heads and a bunch of like different colored bodies. And I always keep one of those in my truck. So like no matter where I'm at, I can fish for something.
That's awesome. I love it. What would you say is the biggest mindset shift that anglers need to make? Because you mentioned a little bit earlier how we have our limited seasons, and it does kind of change. Like we all want to be out there all the time, but we have to kind of get creative about what that looks like. So, what do you think is one of the mindset shifts that anglers can make to stay on the water more often than not?
That's one thing I think has been part of my success as a guide is like there's so many guys out there that only like steelhead and salmon fish. And there's so many other things out there. Like that's why I got into kokanee fishing originally was we were getting less and less season. And like I grew up fishing Puget Sound. Like me and dad used to go troll out of Shoal for Coho all the time. Like to the point he would take me out in the morning and drop me off at school with the boat behind the truck after we caught our limit of Coho in the morning. So like I I still love trolling for salmon. And as our seasons get smaller and smaller, I found like kokanee fishing and like even some trout fishing are things that you can do year round or a lot of times like in the time where there's not salmon fishing. And it's just miniaturized trolling for salmon. Like you just size down your stuff, you get some lighter rods, you get some small dodgers, and what you know from fishing for big salmon, they're just a landlocked sockeye salmon. They're just a little salmon. It's not like they're even a, trout or related. They are a sockeye salmon. So you can take what you know in like the fishing for big fish and you can take it to kokanee fishing. And the best part was after I went kokanee fishing, I didn't have to wash the boat for 2 hours because it wasn't salty. But it was all the things that I enjoyed from trolling for salmon in the saltwater, I could put towards trolling for kokanee. So there's a lot of things, if you like lingcod fishing, you would probably like walleye fishing. Like it's a lot of the same looking for structure fishing. I mean, live bait, if you're going to call worms live bait, but it's a lot of that. Like you can take a lot of things you learn and from lingcod fishing and put it towards walleye. Or even, if you want to go further east and go like up to Roosevelt or something, burbot fishing are actually freshwater lingcod, right? So you can take things that you know and enjoy now, and you can put it towards other fisheries that you can do in the off season from your favorite seasons. And that's one of the great things about Washington. Like, yes, we're losing a lot of our seasons, but there's so many other things out there that we can do. And if you want to fish every single day of the year, there's something you can fish for in the state. And like who doesn't like learning something new? It's not a bad thing. And it will help you a lot of times in that fishery that you really like and you're looking forward to all year. When you go off and, even fishing for perch or rainbow trout or, whitefish in the river, doing those other things. And especially when you don't have the pressure of like, you're learning it, you don't need to put so much pressure on yourself. You can take things you learn from that new species or new technique, and a lot of times it'll help you be a better fisherman for those things you've been fishing for years.
Excellent advice. And I'd love to know, how do you accelerate your success in a new fishery as someone who has all that skill set from all these different species, to give advice to the newbie who's like, okay, I want to try, but like, I have no idea where to start. Like, what do I even Google? So what would you advise to somebody that's kind of in that camp that wants to expand their fishing repertoire?
The the world we live in right now is actually like really amazing for like people like that. Even myself, if I'm going to go try a new area or a new fishery or a new technique, like if I can find a friend who does it and I can like convince them to take me out one day, that's the best, right? Or hire a guide to show it to me. Like that's the best way you're going to learn hands on. But we've got this amazing thing called YouTube
Mhm.
and it's amazing. You type something in like you want to sturgeon fish in the Dalles, right? For keeper sturgeon. Put that into YouTube and you're probably going to find videos on how to do it. Like I'll do it when I'm going to a new area. If I'm going somewhere, I haven't spent a lot of time on Lake Roosevelt just because it's so far away and I can't guide it without a whole extra license. And I hold enough licenses as it is. Like it's too far away, not worth getting the license. So I really don't fish it because it's not something I can guide. Like I like going and playing around on my time off. But this last spring, I took my friend on for her last spring break of high school. She was a senior, and I took her around Eastern Washington. We ended up over on Lake Roosevelt, and we were like trying to figure out where to fish and what to do and that kind of thing. And I YouTubed it up and watched some YouTube videos I tried to find them like the area we were fishing and the like time of year we were fishing, I found a bunch of videos and had another friend that had a boat and she took us out and we ended up catching a bunch of walleye and some burbot. Like
How fun.
just had a great time and really successful. And I guarantee we were more successful by kind of like internet scouting.
E-scouting.
E-scouting.
Yes.
Scouting. That's right.
Yes.
That's the
We're
word I
doing
was
that
looking
right
for.
now for elk.
Yeah. We were e-scouting, and I guarantee that we were more successful because of doing that than had we just gone out blind. So, like, even I do that. There's no shame in doing that. People put those videos out there for other people to watch. And it's not even just watching the, like, how to walleye fish like Roosevelt. Just watching, like, just watching and listening to someone fishing and catching fish. You can learn a lot. When you go out in people's boats, it's one thing that has blown me away over years and years of watching people. I will watch people or I'll have people in my boat and they come and they fish with me and like even my friends that fish with me all the time. They'll come out and fish with me and they'll run downriggers or they'll run gear. I'm telling them, what to do, where to go, that kind of thing. And they'll do it in my boat and then they get to their own boat and they're sending me text messages asking what to do, which is all stuff that they could have absorbed had they been paying attention. And like really easy things. You set the downrigger to 70 feet 20 times that day, and then the next day you ask me how deep you should fish. Well, you set your own downrigger to 70 feet. So
That'd be
there's a
fun.
lot of like little things, and if you get the chance to go out on someone's boat, or even if you're just sitting there watching YouTube videos, like pay attention to those little things. If they say how deep they're fishing, or they say an area or a speed or something like that, pay attention to those little things and try to replicate it yourself. It kind of goes both ways though. Like if we're talking about walleye fishing and you're trying to watch walleye videos, they fish walleye and the walleye in the Great Lakes respond really differently to a lot of tactics than the fish here do. So if you're watching like Great Lakes walleye fishing or even like Great Lakes steelhead fishing, and then you try to do it here, their techniques are really different than ours and a lot of times don't work as good. Doesn't mean you shouldn't try it, but if you are trying to learn, I would focus on finding things like very specific to where you're trying to fish or what you're trying to learn.
I think that's really excellent advice. And the internet, oh my gosh, like it really does open up so many doors of what's possible out there and what we can discover and experience. But I'd love to know what's a common mistake that you see people make. I mean, you've guided so many people in so many different fisheries. Is there some sort of through line that you see as mistakes that beginners make often that maybe our audience could avoid?
It's kind of like person and fishery specific. One of the biggest things I see is like, and it would be very hard for people to like control too. A lot of times like people get their first fish and they get so excited and that adrenaline starts pumping and everything. And one of the biggest things is like yanking on it too hard, like setting the hook when you're not supposed to, or dropping the rod tip and giving the fish slack. Like different fisheries are different, but that's the biggest thing I see is just kind of like getting so excited and going kind of crazy and not paying attention to what's going on and giving the fish slack or yanking the hook out of the mouth or whatever, depending on the fish. Most of the time, staying on the calmer side and being a little more consistent is going to get that fish in and get it in the net versus like totally freaking out and like yanking on it and reeling as fast as you can. Reeling as fast as you can is almost never the answer, but everyone does it.
Yeah.
um, one of the big things, I think, like a more specific thing would be when you're using a spinning reel. And it's really hard to explain to someone when you have a fish on, but until you have a fish on and like the whole series of events takes place, like it's really hard to learn it and understand it. But when you have a spinning reel and it's making that noise and line is coming out, you don't want to reel. If you reel at the same time as your reel is making that clicking noise, you're just spinning your line. You're putting twist in your line, and then all of it turns into a mess. And like you might get that fish, but a couple fish down the road of doing that, you're gonna have this like big wad of line and it's gonna be all spun up and you're gonna have to re-spool your reel when you get home. So that's like a really specific thing. I wish I could like get through to my clients, like especially my like new to fishing clients that like just fighting the fish, but it's really hard to teach people that
Yeah.
when, they don't have any experience to go off of. I can tell them don't reel when it's making that noise, but all they can really think about is like
It's real, real, real,
Get it in,
real.
get it
reel,
in,
watch
get
that
it
fish, just like keep reeling because they don't want it to get off.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, that adrenaline moment. So it's funny. The intention of this podcast was to talk about our core species that you're going to be teaching to our inner circle members here right now, which is squid fishing. And we have literally not even touched that subject because I could just talk to you for hours. But really quick, before we transition to our actual seminar, what got you into squid fishing and why should somebody give it a try if they're curious about it? And do you fish from a boat for squid?
I do. I do
Okay.
both. Sometimes I like to just like grab some stuff and like especially because we do it mainly in the winter and like between Thanksgiving and Christmas is like prime time to go squidding, especially in Edmonds. And I used to live in Edmonds, so like to just grab some stuff and go down to the pier and like get shoulder to shoulder with everyone all bundled up in all your stuff is an experience I think everyone should do, and it's really fun. And I will still do it to this point, especially like if I can grab a couple friends and go down there and just like not have to worry about the boat and everything. But I do squid out of the boat a lot, which takes a lot of the stress out of it, and you can do it in the daylight, which I know they do in the daylight, like down south, like Tacoma area off the piers. But up here, I've never been super successful in the daylight off the pier. We have been super successful in the boat during the daylight. So I really like calamari, which is why I got into squid fishing, really. Like, and it's one of those things like, what else do we really have to do in the winter? Like, we can
Right.
go sea run cutthroat fishing, or you can go squidding.
Yeah.
Those are kind of like the big options now that we don't have a ton of steelhead around anymore. So that's like really what got me into it. I used to live in Edmonds and the pier was right there. It was something to do when there wasn't much else to do, and I really, really like to eat it. And it makes great bait. If you ever check your salmon stomachs when you're fishing, like especially out in saltwater, you've probably seen squid. You might not know that they're squid, but you've probably seen squid in their stomachs. So everyone like strips and salts herring. You can strip a squid and use a squid strip instead of a herring strip, and it works really, really well.
I love that idea. And we are going to transition to our training seminar now, where you're going to teach us all the ins and outs of squid fishing. And one of my favorite things about learning from you is you give us the background of the actual fish. Like, I understand more about the animal and how to target the animal. So I'm really excited to dig into that. But we do have a tradition on this podcast where the previous guest leaves a question for the next guest without knowing who that person is.
Mm.
So the question that has been left for you is a would you rather question. Would you rather fish with a knuckle buster, like an Islander reel, or in your opinion, yes or no, and why?
Rather fish than like
A
regular gear.
conventional,
Oh,
like a
Just
conventional reel. And
um,
the context was downrigger fishing for salmon. So
I personally haven't done it very much. Like, I would stick with my conventional gear just because that's like what I'm comfortable with. And like, knuckle busters are super fun, but not like, not my choice for everyday fishing. It's more like fishing super good. I want to like play around. I don't need to be like stressed to get that like one chance today, fish in kind of thing. I love to play with them, but if it's just like everyday fishing, I'm sticking with my conventional stuff.
cool. I love it. And after this is over, I'll find out your question for our next guest. But with that,
All
we are
right.
going to transition. So thank you, those of you that are tuning into the Fishing for a Reason podcast. We will see you next week, same time, same place, same channel, and we will talk about something exciting.